It really feels like the Indianapolis Colts are playing chess while the rest of the league is playing checkers. They just made this move that seems kind of small on the surface, signing a safety who's been retired for 2 years, but I think it might just be the first domino in a much, much bigger plan. A plan that sets up a huge, high-stakes gamble in the draft. So today on NFL Nexus, we're going to connect those dots. We're going to peel back the layers on what looks like a quiet signing to show you a bold, aggressive strategy that could completely change the future of this Colts franchise.
But hey, before we get into all that, if you're a fan of this kind of deep dive NFL breakdown, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. And of course, give this explainer a like. We're all about breaking down the moves that really matter, and I definitely want to hear what you think about the Colts strategy down in the comments.
I mean, think about it. This is a story you almost never see in the NFL, right? A former second-round pick, a guy who was a legitimate starter, decides to hang up his cleats. He's gone from the league for 2 entire seasons, and then at 28 years old decides, you know what, I want back in. This isn't just some feel-good story, though. This is a really shrewd, calculated move by the Colts, and it hints at a much bigger, more complex plan. So let's break down this first piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so first things first. Who exactly is Nasir Adderley? To really get why the Colts' master plan is so fascinating, we've got to understand the player at the very heart of this comeback story. And more importantly, why his return is way more than just a little blip on the transaction wire. This timeline really just lays out the roller coaster that Adderley's career has been. I mean, he was a high draft pick for the Chargers, a guy they had big expectations for, and honestly, he met them. He became a solid full-time starter. And then poof, he was just gone. Retiring after an injury isn't unheard of, but to do it in your mid-20s, right at your peak earning potential, that's really, really unusual. It takes an incredible amount of work to get back into NFL shape after 2 years off. But look at that key number right there, age 28. That's what makes this whole thing so interesting for the Colts. He's not some old veteran trying to hang on for one last paycheck. He is, in theory, still in his athletic prime, and he's got something to prove. For Indianapolis, this is the textbook definition of a low-risk, super high-reward bet on talent. And these numbers right here, they prove he was anything but a bench warmer. This was a productive, dependable guy for a pretty good Chargers team. But let's look a little deeper. 44 starts in 50 games? That tells you he was durable, and the coaches trusted him. 232 tackles for a safety? That means he's not afraid to come flying downhill and stick his nose in the run game. But the playmaking is what really stands out to me. Those 12 passes broken up and 3 interceptions, that suggests he has great instincts, great ball skills. This is a player who knows how to play at a high level. So the Colts aren't just bringing in some camp body. They're bringing in a legitimate threat to be a day-one starter. The big billion-dollar question, of course, is, can he shake off 2 full years of rust and get back to this level?
All right, so Adderley's comeback is just the first really interesting piece. Now we're going to zoom out. We're going to see how this one guy fits into a secondary that is going through a massive change. From there, we'll look at the team's biggest needs all over the roster, which then sets the stage for a bold, and I mean bold, draft strategy that could change absolutely everything for this franchise.
So Adderley's signing isn't just about him. It's a huge piece of a complete teardown and rebuild of the Colts' entire safety room. They aren't just moving a few names around on the depth chart here. Nope. They are fundamentally trying to create a brand new, way more competitive identity in the most important part of their pass defense.
Just look at this. The Colts safety room is basically unrecognizable from last season. They let 2 key guys walk, Nick Cross and Rodney Thomas II, players who knew the system, who had chemistry with everyone else. And in their place, they bring in this trio of hungry vets, Jonathan Owens, Juanyeh Thomas, and of course, Adderley. This isn't just swapping out players, it's a deliberate change in culture. You're going from a room where guys kind of knew their roles to what sources are calling a dog-eat-dog environment, where every single rep in training camp is going to be a battle. No one's being promised a job. It has to be earned.
Okay, now here's where the whole strategy gets crystal clear. The Colts have exactly one proven, locked-in starter in their secondary, free safety Cam Bynum. He's a solid player. But the spot right next to him, it's a gigantic question mark. The team is apparently really high on this second-year player, Hunter Wohler, but, and this is a big but, he has never played a single regular season snap in the NFL. That is a massive gamble, and that's exactly why the Adderley signing is so smart. He, along with those other guys, gives them a veteran safety net, and, maybe more importantly, real competition. That starting job is truly wide open, and the front office is betting that this intense, high-stakes battle is going to forge a quality starter out of the fire. But look, the uncertainty in the secondary, that's really just the tip of the iceberg for the Colts. The issues are bigger than just one position group. They've got significant holes all over their roster, and it's a direct result of their offseason strategy. All of this is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on them to hit an absolute grand slam in the upcoming draft.
This is basically the Colts draft shopping list, and it is a long one. They need speed at linebacker to keep up with today's offenses. They've got to rebuild the depth on that offensive line to protect their franchise quarterback. But those last 2 points are what really tell the story. The language here is pressing need for explosive playmakers and a search for true difference makers. The message from the front office couldn't be clearer. We are done filling out the roster with average guys. We are hunting for stars. That's the mindset of a team that thinks it's right on the edge of being a real contender and is ready to make a big move to get over that hump.
And here's the financial balancing act that really forced their hand. The Colts are all in on their offense. They made a massive commitment to their quarterback, Daniel Jones. Yep, the one they got in that blockbuster trade from the Giants. And they extended their up-and-coming receiver, Alec Pierce. But to afford those giant contracts, they had to make some painful cuts. They let fan favorites and veteran leaders like Michael Pittman Jr. and Zaire Franklin walk right out the door. This is a huge gamble. They're betting their offense can carry them, which means they absolutely have to find impact players on cheap rookie contracts in the draft to fill those massive holes they just created.
So, with all these obvious needs and all this pressure they've put on themselves, what are the Colts actually going to do in the draft? Well, according to at least one analyst, we are about to see a seismic shift in their entire philosophy. No more playing it safe, no more waiting to see who falls to them. It's time to get aggressive.
So here it is, the bold two-part plan. First, they packaged their second-round pick, number 47, along with other assets, probably a future first or second rounder, to trade back into the first round for a defensive stud. Then, in a really fascinating twist, they used their valuable third-round pick, number 78, on a quarterback. I mean, this is the very definition of a high-risk, high-reward strategy. They're mortgaging a piece of their future to win now, but they're also hedging their bets at the most important position in all of sports. It's a really compelling approach.
And the target of that big trade-up isn't just any defensive player. It's a foundational leader. They're reportedly targeting top prospects from Clemson's elite defense. We're talking guys like cornerback Avion Terrell or defensive lineman TJ Parker and Peter Woods. Clemson is basically a factory for NFL-ready defenders. These aren't just physically gifted athletes. They've been coached at the absolute highest level. So the Colts aren't just looking for a starter here. They're looking for a cornerstone, the guy who could be the face of their defense for the next decade.
You know, in the absolutely brutal AFC, where you have to go through a gauntlet of quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow just to make the playoffs, having a pretty good defense, that's not a luxury. As the source says, it's an absolute necessity. The Colts know this. They know they can't win a championship just by trying to outscore everybody, and that's why they seem willing to pay a really steep price to get a blue-chip defensive star. It sends a clear message to the rest of the league. We're not just hoping to compete anymore. We are building a team to win it all.
All right, now for part 2 of this gamble, the quarterback insurance policy.
The Colts learned a painful, season-destroying lesson last year. Their entire operation, and I quote, crashed and burned the second Daniel Jones went down with that injury. Their Super Bowl hopes just vanished overnight. And that's why they're reportedly looking at a guy like Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. He isn't being drafted to replace Jones. He's being drafted to make sure that one single injury can never, ever derail an entire season again. He's the ultimate safety net.
And this number shows you why Nussmeier is the perfect guy for the job. Throwing for over 4,000 yards in the SEC is no joke. That is week in and week out, the fastest, most talented, and most complex defensive conference in all of college football. It is the closest thing you can get to the NFL. This stat proves Nussmeier isn't just some project with a big arm. He's a polished, battle-tested quarterback who could probably start for a handful of teams in the league right now. For the Colts, he's the perfect insurance policy for today and maybe a high-value trade chip or even a franchise QB for tomorrow.
Okay, so what does this all mean when you put it all together? You've got a low-risk comeback player, a roster with very specific urgent needs, and a predicted draft strategy that is anything but conservative. This is a team at a huge crossroads, and the combination of all these moves tells a really clear story about the new direction they're headed.
It really seems like the Colts are done playing it safe. They are embracing this new, daring philosophy, calculated aggression. For years, this was a franchise known for being patient, for methodically building through the draft. This is a complete 180.
It's the aggression of trading future picks for a star, but it's balanced by the calculation of drafting an insurance policy at quarterback. They're making bold, targeted moves to get top-tier talent. Because in today's NFL, sometimes the riskiest thing you can do is absolutely nothing at all.
So, the question becomes, is this the dawn of a new, smarter era for the Colts? Or is it a desperate gamble that's just bound to fail? I mean, this is a strategy that could either launch them to a Super Bowl, or if it backfires, it could set the franchise back for a decade. Trading away future first-round picks is how you end up in the NFL basement if you're wrong. The stakes? Well, they could not possibly be any higher.
And that's the big question I want to leave you with. What do you think of this strategy? Are the Colts geniuses for being this aggressive, or are they just madmen heading for disaster? Let me know your full take down in the comments section below, and please don't forget to like this explainer and subscribe for more deep dives into the strategies that are shaping the entire league. And hey, before you go, I just want to say a quick thank you for all of your support. Seriously, it's what lets us make these kinds of in-depth explainers. If you want to help the channel out and get something pretty cool in return, check out our new line of NFL-themed coloring books. They're perfect for fans of any age. You can find the link for them right down in the description. Thanks again for watching.